Well, I didn't want this to be a video I'm making, but if I'm gonna be blunt, things are looking bad in the roommate department of my life. Since January of last year, I've shared my home with 6 different people, and it's been an absolute roller coaster of crash outs. I thought I had found the diamond in the rough, the underdog on Craigslist. If you watched my second roommate saga, you'll know this person as Claire. Her development was super interesting, because on paper, she had the worst application I ever received. Thousands in collections, a bad credit score, no references, jumping around minimum wage jobs, and a hardly functional vehicle with a daily ending bank account balance in the negatives, and best of all, she was evicted from her previous apartment and homeless for 6 months. But I said, f it, we ball, and let her move in, even after she paid her initial deposit late. And to everyone's surprise, including my own, she proceeded to pay on time or early for 7 months straight. I didn't even have to ask for rent. It would just spawn in my Cash App, no questions asked. And experiencing this after multiple roommates who acted like I was the spawn of Satan for asking for at least half the rent they owe, it was a breath of fresh air. Now, are Claire and I good friends? No. Honestly, I wouldn't even call her an acquaintance. Our relationship is only as deep as landlord-tenant or maybe housemates. And that's exactly how I wanted it, which is partly why she's never appeared on the channel, and we ask so few questions about each other that 9 months of living with me, and she still doesn't even know what I do for a living. Our personalities are total opposites, and we agree on next to nothing, like morally or politically or socially, but it didn't matter. It hasn't mattered in the slightest. She mostly keeps to herself, she's relatively clean and quiet, and honestly, there's entire weeks where I kind of forget she even exists. Okay, but enough about that, because that's not why you're here. That's not why I'm recording this video while she's out of the house. We've gathered on this very day because she's been living here rent-free for an entire month. So Claire signed a 6-month lease when she moved in, which in hindsight, I regret doing because this was the same lease I had my other tenant sign, who you may know as Milo, which made kicking Milo out a total nightmare. But anyway, yeah, 6-month lease, $650 a month plus utilities, so about $730 a month cash to me every 30 days. And as the 6 months approached an end, I asked Claire if she was planning on moving out or if she'd like to stay longer. And she requested more time because she was financially not yet where she wanted to be in order to continue on with her life independently of mine. And so I was like, okay, cool. We let the lease roll into a month-to-month agreement, meaning she simply pays up front and receives 30 days of housing in return. Rinse and repeat every month. But there's one tiny problem, one itty-bitty problem. This process, I just lost my voice. What the flip? This only happened once, which was her 7th month of tenancy at my house. She paid, it was renewed, good to go. But a couple weeks into month 7, I came home from picking up Domino's right as Claire was about to leave. I said, hey, what's up? And she said, I'm on my way to an interview. And I was like, okay, cool. You upgrading from your current job? And Claire goes, no, I was fired like 2 weeks ago. And I say, oh, that sucks. Well, good luck. And I start walking upstairs with my pizza, and she goes, haven't you wondered why I've been home for the past 2 weeks straight? And I say, no. Why was I supposed to? And she goes, oh, I guess not. Okay, yeah, good luck. People are always asking me like, oh, how's your tenant doing? I don't know. I have no idea. Sometimes I don't even know if she's alive if she just doesn't come home for a couple days. People assume that we're like BFFs, or some people even ship us as a couple, but no, this was our first conversation in the entire month, and we didn't talk again until 2 weeks later, which was the beginning of her 8th month living with me. So I'm like, yeah, you haven't sent any money yet, so I assume you're still unemployed. And she goes, yep. And I say, okay, that sucks. Well, honestly, if this happened last year, I'd honestly have to just end the lease and ask you to leave, because I would need to give that room to someone else. But because I'm financially in a better spot now, I can give you some leniency and just wait a bit longer for you to pay, as long as you make up what's owed. And she's like, okay, that's perfect. And she tells me about various interviews she's got coming up, some of which were claiming to pay as much as $60,000 a year. So from this point, we actually started talking every day for a bit, because she would get home and tell me about how interviews went, but unfortunately, the updates were not good. the high-paying jobs turned out to be stuff like door-to-door sales with inflated commission-based estimates with no base salary, and the jobs more in her league were filling positions before she could get interviews. Or I'm just gonna say up front, I've never had a job or even done an interview before. I genuinely have no idea what it takes to get hired, but apparently it was going bad. Supposedly, allegedly, it was hard. Like, she had 4 interviews one day, and they were all at legitimate places, some of which I had heard of, and they were paying between like $15 to $22 an hour. And she didn't get any of them, like not even Starbucks. And so I was like, okay, that sucks, but yeah, just keep me updated, I guess. It was at this point that I think she felt it was important to prove that she was putting in effort, so she'd give me an updated number of Indeed applications every day, which went from 300 to 500, and then 800, eventually touching 1,000 Indeed applications. I have no idea what an Indeed application is, so this really didn't help reassure me at all. To me, it sounds like the same as like swiping on Tinder. Like, well, I swiped on 1,000 girls, but also I'm just really f***ing ugly. Like, I don't know if applying on Indeed means anything. One day, she started getting really frustrated and fatigued from applying on Indeed. She complained that a low-end job at a farm as an animal care technician required a cover letter. And she goes, I'm not writing a cover letter for a farm. I have no idea what a cover letter is. I had to but apparently you just like write like a customized, like, hey, I'm Alex, I freaking love farm animals. I don't know. She didn't want to write cover letters apparently. So I just straight up asked her why it was so hard for her to get a job. Like, I didn't ask in an accusatory way, but I was basically like, okay, Claire, I don't get it. Having a job is like the most basic thing people do, and you seem to be having a lot of trouble. Like, what's the bottleneck here that you're having? She brought up a handful of reasons, including AI screenings, deleting her applications before a real human even reads them, and employers hiring people before she can actually go in for her interview. Basically, her car kept breaking down, and so she was missing like all these in-person interviews because she'd get stranded on the side of the road before she even makes it to the place. So she ended up resorting to phone interviews instead. She continued complaining about the difficulty of getting a job, but exclaimed that she's gonna keep trying because, quote, I'm not gonna work at McDonald's. Okay, so my question was what the bottleneck was, and she didn't give me a direct answer, but I feel like this told me well enough. And I could be wrong, but I think she was being too picky. I think she was being a choosing beggar. The thing is, Claire's upgraded jobs over the past year from 9 to 11 to 19 an hour. And so as she's looking for a new job, it seems like she's either looking to match the 19 an hour or exceed what she made the past few months. She went from customer service and food service with weird like part-time shifts, sometimes it was third shift, but she then went to working in an office from 9 to 5 on a consistent 40-hour schedule. She got into a groove, she was making decent money, and she got a taste of the office life. I worry she's not willing to step back into these lower tier jobs. Well, actually, I don't worry it. She just flat out said that she's not willing to work in food service, so I guess it's true. I guess my hypothesis was proven by facts and logic and science and data and God. Now, when she was saying this, the first thing I thought of was my personal McDonald's locations, where the employees literally watch these videos. Like, hello, if you're watching and you work at that McDonald's, I can't tell you whether working in food service sucks or not, but I talk to channel viewers in person that do it. Like, I meet people in these positions and they're fine, they're alive, like they're smiling. I'm sure they don't love their jobs, but they go to work, they work, they go home, they get money, they pay their rent. That's it. They're cooking, they're grinding, they're putting fries in the freaking bag. Is it really worse than having a negative bank account balance? Like, if you're watching, this is not a rhetorical question. If you're watching this video and if you've worked in food service, let me know. Is putting fries in the bag so bad that you'd rather just let your life turn to shambles? It takes a lot for a roommate's reaction to bother me. Like, I'd probably be upset if one of my roommates like freaked out and seriously injured me and tried to frame it as an accident. But in the case that you're seriously injured in an accident, your injury could potentially be worth millions without time-consuming appointments, paperwork,
upfront costs, and just reliving the traumatic event over and over. Insurance companies often lowball clients' claims, but if you become Morgan & Morgan's client, they will fight to get you the money you deserve for getting hurt. They've achieved significant verdicts in the past couple months for victims involved in a huge plethora of injuries, including life-altering car crashes, like $12 million in Florida, which is 34 times the highest insurance offer, $26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer. One client was hit by an uninsured motorist and sued his own insurance after they offered just $50,000, which didn't even cover medical expenses. So Morgan & Morgan secured him over $5 million. Morgan & Morgan's fee is absolutely free unless you win your case. You're just a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. You can start your own claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/goherping, linked in the description, or by using your phone to scan the QR code on screen. Thank you to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring. Back to the video. Quick intermission. I keep getting ring notifications because I don't want to record while she gets home, but it's just my friend. He keeps walking in and out the front door, and I think it's my roommate, but no, it's not. So after a week of this back and forth with Claire, we were about 10 days out from rent being due again, and she was really starting to sink into the old unemployment routine. It was when I heard Markiplier on the TV, and I walked downstairs to her playing The Sims, that I was like, yep, we're cooked. Chat, we are freaking cooked. She said hi, and I said hi, and I grabbed a soda and I went back upstairs, and then I just sat there and thought about how I'd feel in her position. I've been unemployed for 6 weeks. I haven't gotten a paycheck in a month. The $400 I had in savings is now $150. I'm running low on food. I'm deep in collections. I have no support system. I have no backup plan. I've been living here rent-free in some guy's house for 3 weeks. I can no longer DoorDash or Instacart because my car is disabled, and I'm on a monthly lease that at any moment could be terminated with 7 days notice, in which case I may have nowhere to go. Putting myself in her shoes, I just can't imagine being so relaxed and so casual, just vibing in the living room while designing a living room for my Sims, who, by the way, do pay rent. I hate to admit this because I was a pretty dedicated epic gamer as a teenager, and I still like playing games, but the deeper I get into this whole landlord thing, the more I become like racist towards video games. Like, the games themselves didn't do anything wrong, but I'm starting to just permanently have a negative association with them simply because I keep seeing them as a catalyst of doom. And seeing her casually play The Sims instead of doing literally anything to make money told me that if I don't take action and apply pressure, I will be walking downstairs to FNAF Let's Plays until the end of time. A couple months ago, when I paid off the last of my non-mortgage debt, I actually told Claire after submitting the payment. I was like, hey, great news. I just paid off my last credit card. And it's largely thanks to you being a great tenant. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you moved in and give me money. It's so cool. I love life. Life is so epic. And I love you. No, I didn't say I love her. And she was like, yeah, okay, great. That's no problem. I don't know. She didn't really care. But it was super quick and simple. But I can't help but wonder if this is all a coincidence, or if her getting confirmation that I'm no longer strapped for cash caused her to ease off the gas a little bit. But speaking of, while I really do stay out of her business, aside from broadcasting her entire life story to my YouTube audience, I can't help but question her spending habits. The thing is, when she first moved in, she was working 2 to 3 jobs at a time. The best of the bunch was a retail position which paid $11 an hour. Before that, she worked at a gas station for $9 an hour. And shortly after moving in with me, she nailed that $19 an hour job in an office. Again, it was full time. She worked this job for about 6 months before being suddenly fired, and in turn, bed rotting in my house for a couple weeks straight. And she said she was fired for, quote, not fitting into the work culture. I don't know what that means, but she was primarily focused on the fact that she was surrounded by, quote, straight white women who she hates. And because I've never shown Claire on screen, I've never described her visually, you don't know what Claire looks like. But I feel like now is a good time to mention that Claire invites guys over to the house sometimes. And only guys. Claire is also Caucasian. Now, similarly to Milo from the second roommate saga story, Claire also identifies as trans non-binary. Both of my local roommates said they prefer they, them pronouns. But the thing is, aside from her asking me about my pronouns mug, she never cares that I call her a woman because she doesn't care about my opinions at all. We have a beautiful symbiotic relationship of being completely unperturbed by one another. So, okay, why am I mentioning this? Well, it's because Claire, as far as I can tell, is a straight white woman
who is now continually displaying her hatred of straight white women. If this sounds like deja vu, it's because it kind of is. From the Roommate Saga 2 series, it's like the more unemployed someone gets and the more someone begins to leech, the more they feel the need to remind me about their convoluted self-identification that I do not care about and did not ask about. The same way Milo felt the need to remind me that the American patriarchy was ruining her life, and then also remind me how much she fucking hates landlords, who, by the way, she was telling this to her landlord, Claire is becoming more and more of a NEET every day. And as she has more and more free time and less work, the more she starts telling me about how the United States requires you to take a pregnancy test to leave the country to make sure you don't go get an abortion in Canada, which I don't think that's a thing, but I honestly have no idea because I don't care and I'm just trying to get some goddamn rent money. I don't know, man. I'm just here to like hang out and like pay my bills, but now the whole unemployed to liberal pipeline thing is happening again in my house for a second time. What did I do to deserve this? Long story short, I don't know why she was fired, but now apparently she wants to get hired by somewhere that's queer friendly or whatever the fuck she said, because apparently McDonald's ain't cutting it. Like I'm just gonna say, my favorite McDonald's cashier that I see every night is the gayest man I have ever met, and he seems to be doing just fine at that establishment. So I feel like if you're queer, you can probably work at McDonald's and stay alive. You'll be okay. Like, he literally gives me free milkshakes at okay, maybe that's actually too much. Maybe I should be concerned that he's giving me free food, but all in all, he's just in his lane. He's moisturized. He possibly wants to moisturize me with his hands while I'm naked, and he's thriving, and I get free milkshakes. I will give her credit that she's been picking up side hustles, including a couple moving gigs and babysitting jobs, but it's been like $50 here or like $30 there, which doesn't even cover her other expenses, with no prospects of paying me rent. Which brings us to today. The clock is ticking until rent is due again. And here's the thing. Fool me once, I guess. Like, historically, if I loan someone money, they usually pay me back. But anytime I've loaned someone money while they already owe me other money, they don't pay it back. It just builds and builds and stacks and stacks. In other words, once this payment lapses and she owes me not just $730, but $1,460 because she's 60 days behind on rent, we're cooked. There's no recovery. And it really sucks, because the same time I thanked her for being a great tenant and helping me achieve some of my financial goals, I actually discounted her rent by about $40 just as a thank you, and hopefully encouragement to keep living here and keep paying rent, because up until this point, I've really enjoyed having her as a tenant overall, and I hope to continue seeing money from her. And I have received over $5,000 at this point, and rolling in another $4 or $5K over the course of the next 6 months it'll be pretty great. But I'm feeling an impending sense of doom. It's just like this big shift from what I've seen prior, and unfortunately, my roommate has shifted into exactly what I feared I might see. A complete lack of urgency to financially stay above water, blaming outside sources and straight white women for why she has just pennies in her bank account now. Now, viewers have always said that my lack of stress in situations that they would find uncomfortable surprises them, but I must say that my tenant takes this to a whole new level. Like, let's take a literal example. Many of you saw me with $50,000 in debt, taking it on more quickly than I was paying it off. But let's be realistic. My net worth was always positive throughout that experience. Even before I owned a home, I could have liquidated valuables I own, like one of my vehicles or a camera or a computer. But my tenant takes this to a whole other level. She's actively being sued by banks with a severely negative net worth, with no stability and no backup plan. I was gonna say she's riding on fumes, but the fumes are pretty much gone now. To be able to be in this position and to still just casually vibe to music while playing video games, it's honestly kind of hardcore, I must say. Okay, so enough about what's been happening. What's gonna happen now? Like, seriously, what do I even do here? Here's the thing. When Claire first moved in, getting that rent money was seriously valuable. That $700 a month resulted in noticeable weight being lifted off my shoulders each time it hit my account. I'd immediately transfer it out of Cash App, and I would spend it on something I needed to pay for. I mean, as an example, $700 was my car payment, plus car insurance, plus internet for the house. Like, it would cover a lot of things, and I could feel that impact. But today, nearly 9 months later, I've substantially recovered my income and my debt's completely irrelevant now. And so in turn, I don't actually notice her rent money come in. Like, I don't even have push notifications on my phone, so there's times where I'll get money in my Cash App and I don't even realize it's there until a few weeks later. But then I randomly open the app and I'm like, oh, there's $700 in here, that's cool. And then I dump it on Robinhood. At the same time, I also hadn't noticed my roommate herself, like as a person. I would just kind of occasionally perceive her existence and then be like, hi. And then she's like, hi. And then we move on. In other words, she doesn't inconvenience my life at all. Or does she? Okay, here's the thing. So I've been so focused on projects aside from roommates that I haven't even considered if her presence is worth $700 anymore. Until today, basically. Like, you could say that her lack of payment triggered an audit in the Herp house. I was completely not thinking about it, but I sat down like earlier today and I thought to myself, is Claire worth $700 a month? After weighing the pros and cons and what I can do with that extra money, I decided, actually, yeah, Claire's presence is worth $700 a month. Okay, cool. I'll let her stay if she pays, but she's not. She's not paying. We're less than 1 week away from rent being due again. So nearly $1,500 is about to be owed to me in total. And that's with me lowering her rent instead of raising it like most landlords do over time. I don't charge late fees. Like, I could, it's in the lease, but I just choose not to. I've never even charged her a pet fee, even though she has cats and my house smells like cat piss all the time. Okay, so next question. How much does she cost me per month? I mean, not much. She doesn't even have a computer, so like she hardly uses electricity aside from hot water to take showers. And yeah, she does pay like part of the utilities like trash and internet and stuff, but I need the Wi-Fi and the garbage removal anyway, even if she wasn't here. So all in all, she maybe costs me like $50 to $75 in electricity to live here. That's a very low monthly expense. But okay, wait, she's supposed to be income, not an expense, obviously. So my next thought was, does it really affect me to just at least give her more time? She's still a perfectly fine person who I could keep living with. But the question I was basically asking myself is, do I want to just give her a free room? It sounds like a silly question, because like, yeah, no, of course not. She's a paying tenant. She's not even a friend. She doesn't get a free room. But wait, what am I doing right now? She can just up and go anytime and like disappear from her house and never pay me what's owed. It wouldn't be the first time. But on the flip side, how affected is my life by her living here? Maybe like a 5% effect, maybe 10%, maybe not even 5%. I no longer need her rent money, and she doesn't negatively impact my lifestyle or any of my goals. But how affected would her life be if I ask her to leave? Like 75% affected, 80, like maybe even 90% affected, because losing this room could be completely disastrous for her very weak stability. Is it crazy to just let her vibe here till she figures things out? I don't know. What do I do now? Like, I'm genuinely curious. What would you do in my situation? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I'll try and figure it out, and I'll link other roommate related videos in the description. But I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.